Let's talk about Michael Keaton for a second, shall we? He starred as Batman in the two Tim Burton films, Batman and Batman Returns. Then in 2015 he starred as an actor who played a former superhero and was trying to cement himself as a serious actor in the film Birdman. Then in 2017 Keaton played an actual Birdman as he starred as Vulture, going back to the comic book genre in Spider-Man Homecoming. And now in 2023 he's back playing Batman.
I'm Batman.
I can't work out if that is impressive or not.
So you're saying you could travel back in time?
But Bruce, I can fix things. I could save people. I could save my mom. I could save your parents.
You could also destroy everything.
Love you, Mom. I love you too.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel and time for another episode of Luke's Reviews. On today's video, well, it is the apparent swan song of the DCEU, and it's time for a project that has been stuck in developmental hell for decades. Not to mention, once it had actually been finished, the lead actor nearly sabotaged the entire release plan and marketing strategy for the film. So it genuinely feels like an accomplishment that this movie is even out. But it is sped into cinemas. It is The Flash. Barry Allen is just about getting by, living his double life as a lab technician, but also as the Scarlet Speedster, saving the day when called upon. However, for Barry, he is still haunted by the tragic event of his mother being murdered and his dad being framed. So, in an attempt to rectify that, Barry goes back in time to prevent it all from even happening. But he soon finds out that the results are even more disastrous than he could have imagined. It is probably worth mentioning that whilst I'm not going to be discussing any spoilers for this film in this video, I will be raising some points that we see featured in the trailers. That's about as spoilery as I'm gonna get. If you want to know literally nothing about the film, if you haven't seen any of the trailers and you want to go in knowing nothing, then my best suggestion to you would be go and watch the film and then come on back to this review when you're ready. And I'm not going to get into like the history of the production of The Flash, why it was just stuck running in place for years and years and years, the numerous directors that were attached. It's safe to say that if you wanted to, you could easily write a book on that. Right, Flashpoint is a comic book storyline that is one of the most integral arcs specifically for Barry Allen as a character. And whilst this isn't following Flashpoint to the letter, it is the DCEU equivalent of it. So Andy Muschietti and his crew over at DC just decided to pull out all the stops, went big, and just kind of prayed it went well. And I'd argue it did go well. It's by no means perfect, but it's pretty darn entertaining. Let's kick things off with my positives first, and that is the emotional and central character arc for Barry. Now, Barry Allen has one of the most tragic backstories for any comic book character, and his entire character arc for a long run of the comics is quintessentially wanting to change that outcome. I found that story and that challenge for Barry explored very well, and we see him mature incredibly quickly when he's opposite a duplicated version of himself, which we have seen in the trailers. The dynamic there made for a great and often comedic back and forth, but more importantly, the actual conclusion to his arc was incredibly emotional, and fair play to the movie, because, you know what, I did not expect it to squeeze a couple of tears out of me, and it did. I know some people aren't really wanting to comment on Miller's performance here. That's okay. Just for a second, I'm going to separate the art from the artist here, and I will say that I found that their performance was excellent. Now, in terms of the multiversal possibilities, I would actually argue that it's kind of toned down from films that we saw like Across the Spider-Verse and Multiverse of Madness. My litmus test for multiversal films is always my mum, because she really struggles a lot of the time to wrap her head around the concept of the multiverse. But I think her watching this, I think is explained in such an accessible way that she would be able to buy into it. That, and she also really likes Michael Keaton's Batman. But in terms of those multiversal hijinks, there are plenty of nods and winks and Easter eggs that will have fans either screaming in delight or recoiling in horror. I'll get onto that in a little bit. But I never felt like it was overpowering the movie. I did always feel that character and story was always at the forefront. But like I said, that's not to say that we don't have fun playing in this giant DC multiversal sandbox. We knew that Michael Keaton was making a triumphant return back as Batman, and he does. Keaton is very good in this role. He looks amazing, and the Danny Elfman score is perhaps overused slightly, but that fanfare is just too good not to hear it blast out now and again. What I will say about Batman in this film is that he lacks any arc. He rocks up to help out, and that's all he provides. So if you're okay with him just servicing the story, then I'm sure you won't bat an eyelid. But for me, I was left thinking, okay, well, you must have brought Keaton in for a reason other than just the nostalgia member berries. And then it turns out that no, they just brought Keaton in for the nostalgia member berries. Realistically, this might upset a few people. I feel like it could have been played by anyone. It didn't have to be Keaton's Batman. Ben Affleck also rocks up at the start of the film for a brief sequence with Barry that has me really excited for what Andy Muschietti is going to do with his upcoming Brave and the Bold film that is going to be part of James Gunn's DCU. Joining the two Barrys and Batman on the quest to save reality itself is Sasha Calle's Supergirl. Calle gives off a steely sense of determination, but also possesses the inherent characteristics that make Supergirl Supergirl, which was great to see. Unfortunately, she does suffer from the same issue as Michael Keaton's Batman. More annoyingly, neither of their characters are given any sense of resolution. And that kind of pissed me off a little bit. I understand that there are certain reasons why, but they just disappear from the movie, never to be seen or heard from again. I found it quite callous and unceremonious. Now, there has been a lot of chatter online about a certain sequence that happens in the third act of the movie that has, safe to say, rubbed people the wrong way. Personally, I didn't find it egregious or offensive. It didn't really bother me at all. But what I did find offensive speaks to a larger issue throughout the movie, and that is the CGI. Sweet mother of f***. This is some of the ugliest CGI I have seen in a movie of this size. It's just unacceptable for a film that has a $200 million plus budget to look as awful as this. The Flash looks rubbery in his suit, CGI doubles are horrendous, and don't even get me started on a sequence involving babies. There's no hyperbole when I say this. That sequence with the babies is one of the most astoundingly awful sequences of visual effects that I have seen in a cinema probably since Cats. Being totally honest. Now, with that little rant over, usually for comic book movies, I might give a little insight into what I think is going to happen moving forward. Safe to say, I don't really know for The Flash, because we have that reset button incoming. The film leaves off in an interesting way. I kind of hope that they don't pick it up after this film ends. I think they can just leave it be. We don't need that. And there is one post-credit scene right at the very end of the film. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's not integral. I don't know if it is like you need to stick around to watch it, but if you want to, by all means. You might have heard some people proclaim that The Flash is the greatest comic book movie ever made. And you may have also heard that The Flash is the lowest form of filmmaking and is a borderline sinful offence on the art of cinema. Well, actually it's neither. It's 150 entertaining minutes that tells an imperfect story but gets the emotional payoff spot on, and has some fun getting to its final destination. Barry's overall arc was the most compelling aspect for me, as well as some solid action set pieces, and in some ways acts as a bit of a celebration for DC. But boy oh boy, I am still reeling from those visual effects. If it ends up earning just a nomination alone for visual effects at the Oscars, then the Academy has lost my entire respect. So I'm going to give The Flash a 7.5 out of 10. Anyway guys, those are my thoughts on The Flash. Let me know, have you had a chance to see the film yet? What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And my question to you, I would like to know, with the DCEU now kind of essentially, I don't really know, but let's just say it's come to a close now. What is your favourite DCEU project, be it films or TV shows? Personally, I've got to go with Man of Steel here. I still contest that it's one of the greatest comic book movies ever made, but that is all we have time for here today. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.